Hi everyone, welcome to Refuse Ordinary, the podcast. We're in season 2. This is our very first episode. We're so glad you're here with us. Today we have some very special guests. Our first guest is Kevin Kornelsen, all the way from Manitoba, Canada.
Manitoba.
Right. Yes, he's a level 4 student at the School of Transformation.
Yeah.
And he does all kinds of media stuff for the Father's House Church. He's amazing. And our next guest is the one and only Vicki Orsillo.
That's me.
That's right.
Senior pastor of the Father's House Church.
Well, only when it's convenient.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And a little plug, she's also in another podcast, a weekly podcast called The Uncommon Truth.
Love it.
It's the Father's House podcast where they go over all kinds of uncommon truths, hard topics that the church doesn't always like to look at, but they look at them. And it's great. So after this episode, go check out the Uncommon Truth podcast.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Please do.
Yes. So for this season of Refuse Ordinary, we are going to be talking more about people's testimonies and encounters with Jesus. So we're going to be looking at Kevin's story, actually, today. Yeah. He recently shared his testimony about how he grew up in church and he always wanted a relationship with Jesus. He loved Jesus. But he never felt good enough to approach Jesus.
Wow.
And he struggled to feel like he had to be perfect and that he couldn't be loved and accepted, which is a big deal. And I'm guessing there's a lot of viewers that have gone through this or are going through this. So we're going to talk about it. So my first question for you.
Yeah.
So what were some of the beliefs that you were having within, because you were a Christian, you were pursuing Jesus, and yet you really struggled with some hard identity issues in your Christianity. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So it was like I grew up in church, so I knew that my life had to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had to do certain things, but I was kind of confused as to, like, there's this message of grace where it's just all under the blood and you're good. Yeah. But then there's also this message of like, well, you better earn your way there because you're not good enough. And so my culture had I was kind of born into that culture of you need to earn it, but then introduced to the grace of it's all fine. But they just didn't make sense, right? They didn't mix.
Yeah.
They're confusing.
Yeah, it was super confusing, and I never knew where I
Yeah.
landed in that. And so for me, it was a lot of trying to figure out, am I good enough?
Wow.
Is grace covering me?
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
Yeah.
And then, but also was super personal, where it was like I felt like I was a failure because you read the Bible and like there's this huge standard, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't like trying to live it, but not measuring up.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And so then just like not being sure if Jesus really wanted to be around me, or if he really was okay with me. Like I thought that he died on the cross for me because it was the right thing to do, not because he loved me. It was just it would make him look better. Yeah. And so there was this disconnect between who I was and how he saw me and what the truth actually was, which is that I was the joy set before him, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you find that translating into your Christianity of like, you just do things because it's the right thing to do and not because you really loved the Lord or loved people around you?
Yeah, all the time. So I was also aware of the fact that I should feel like I wanted to love people.
Yeah.
And then trying to do that, but still it's like this, well, also I kind of just have to feeling, you know? And then the people that I was trying to love and serve, it kind of feels a little weird. You know,
Plus,
they're
did
like,
you love yourself?
No, not at all.
So that'd be difficult to love other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was this dry, like, I have to love you. I have to serve you.
Wow.
And then I'll just slap on a smile and I'll just do it, you know,
Yes.
because I had the heart to do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't believe that I was
Not
loved
at the right
and I didn't love
place.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. So when you came to the School of Transformation, you had an encounter with Jesus, is that right?
Yes,
and
I did.
Changed everything.
It has.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So one of the perks of being on media is I have keys to the church. And so
That's a perk.
that's a perk.
There you
Not everybody gets the perk, but
I don't have keys.
Oh,
I have no keys.
the senior pastor doesn't have keys.
But that's okay.
Okay.
I'm glad you do.
Yes. So there's this one night I just knew I needed to get it with Jesus.
Wow.
Mhm.
We do a lot around here and we get kind of tired, and I was like, I just got to recenter, you know? So I went to the church, turned the soundboard on, just blasted the worship music. But I had all this stuff swirling in my head, like all these things I was struggling with and trying to overcome. And I was distracted by the to-do lists and just trying to get it all done. Right. While also like, oh, I know I need to work on my relationship with Jesus, but that was kind of just a task. I was like, oh, got to check that box.
That one off.
Yeah. But I went in and I was so lost. The worship music is just blasting, but I was so lost, and man, I don't know how to approach him. Is he going to be disappointed in me? Just like, how should I approach him? Should I be humble? Should I kneel? Should I worship loudly? Like trying to figure out what he wanted from a distance, because I was already expecting him to reject me. Yeah. But then he just kind of came close, and I could feel him just loving me. Yeah. And he looked at me, and I almost could see, like in the spirit, I could see all these like broken pieces all around me. Like somebody had shattered some glass. Wow. And I was so focused on all of that. Like, how do I put this together? Wow. I need to be fixed, because then Jesus will really love me. Then I'll be accepted, you know? Yeah. And I felt him say, I just want to be with you. Wow. You know, I don't, like he said, I'll take these pieces. Yeah. I'll deal with them on my time. Yeah. But now I just want to be with you. Wow. And that was super powerful. Yeah. And that was like a huge breakthrough. And now when I am struggling, I'll just go to him. And I might not do it right every time. Sometimes I should probably have come in low and slow when I didn't, but I just come to him, and he honors that ability to just approach him with where I'm at. He knows I'm not perfect, and he's happy to fill in the gap, because I am giving my all, and I am trying my hardest to honor him and live like him.
Right. So. What's been fabulous is to be an eyewitness to Kevin's 3.5 years now. What is it? 2.5 years? And just it's such a unique vantage point for me to see people come in from the school the first day, and to see him today, this shining, confident young man. You know, it's stunning. The privilege that we get to I get to have is I was talking to a guy the other day, and I forgot that he had this big beard, and he was really angry, and to look at him today, he's all shiny and getting married, and it's just a real privilege to see what Jesus does.
Yeah, that's amazing. You've probably seen a lot of people's transformations.
I've seen almost everyone, and I've seen some of them go back too. And how quickly they fall. You know, so Jesus is real, and the School of Transformation, that's what it really does. It absolutely lives up to the name of transformation. Yes, that's absolutely. Because I remember you too. Yeah, I remember 4 years ago. And now you're on a podcast, which I am. 4 years ago, standing over there by that pillar. Yes. Would you thought that was possible?
No. No. No, I think I wanted it to be possible. Like I felt like I could see that in me, but like so far in the distance. Wow. And like I remember when in my first semester, with the whole like using my voice, even just the transformation, that like I felt Jesus saying like, you don't have to, it was something along the lines of like, you don't have to use your voice, but or like open up, but that's what's gonna bring freedom, right? Wow. Like there was just like this thing, and like this learning to be vulnerable and let people in. It's huge, and finding out who I am in Jesus as well.
And it hasn't for I think for all of us, but I'm going to just talk to you, and I don't want to take over the podcast, but just it hasn't been easy. No, not You've at all. Gone, and now you're married. You got married this summer, but the transformation is not just one and done.
Not at all. Okay. No, not even close. It's been a lot of choosing the next right thing. That's like. Yeah. And that was the biggest thing for me in the first semester, was like, okay, this is what I've always done, and it's gotten to me where I don't want to be. Wow. So I'm going to now do something different. So every time, like a small example was there was ministry time at the church where you can go up to get prayed for. Okay, my introvert personality was like, no, I'm fine to sit in my seat. Like, if that's the option, I'm good. But then where that was something where like, okay, but that's what I would do. So let's do something different.
You did opposite.
Yeah. Wow. And that like, and so then it was slow, but in some ways really fast, because I really wanted it, you know? Wow. And so, yeah, no, this school has changed my life for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You're just breathtakingly beautiful and free and just a leader. And it's been fun. It's been so fun.
Yeah.
And so hard and so fun and so hard, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say that's
Yes.
Jesus in a nutshell?
Yeah. And I love what you said about the choice thing, because that's such a big deal. Because I had this encounter, right?
Yep.
And it was super powerful.
Yeah.
But
Now
moving
what?
forward, what am I going to do with it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy right after that to just be like, oh, that was nice. But I still feel like I'm not enough.
Yeah.
You know, the lies still come back.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just go backwards into what we had.
Yeah.
But even just that practical choice of, I have decided that I'm enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because Jesus died for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I stand on. And then that continual choice is what brings transformation.
Yeah.
And we kind of just keep going on the journey. It's not like it just disappears.
No.
Right.
I mean, we're 2.5
Work out
years
your
in.
salvation with
Yeah.
fear and trembling.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And when I look at you two, it's shocking to me that you wouldn't love yourselves. I mean, that you would struggle with anything, just who you are and who I've had the privilege of just being an eyewitness to. It's shocking to me that someone like you guys would even struggle with identity. And you're doing really well. I'm really proud of both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So in your Christianity, in your walk, have you experienced something similar to what Kevin is talking about, like with like kind of figuring out the grace of Jesus, or feeling like you need to be somebody or be perfect, or like?
No, I never struggled with it. Okay, I'm serious, because I went into it. I got saved 43 years ago. If you guys put your 2 years ages together, it's not 43 years. But however, when I got saved, I went to a really good Jesus believing church, and we're still in a relationship with our pastor. But I remember that I did struggle at first, not liking myself. So that I wasn't being quite honest, I guess I'm remembering now. But I remember I read Romans 8:1. Okay. And the scripture is, therefore, there is now no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus and called according to his name. Yeah. And I got that. Yeah. I just really got that. And I'm not a perfectionist. I've never been a perfectionist. Yeah. I'm just close enough. Everything's just close enough for me, and that's fine. Yeah. Anything I do is close enough. But I remember thinking, he said he forgives me as far as east is from the west. Yeah. So every time I screwed up in my identity, I just was like, oh, that was bad. Okay. Yeah. I'm done. I'm sorry. Yeah. And I kept going. Yeah. So I learned really young to begin the path of doing that. I remember my identity wasn't good in the beginning. Yeah. I remember not liking myself. It's all coming back because it's been so long. But the best thing my husband did, because my complexion has always been a source of insecurity, and I wore a lot of makeup at the time. And Steve, my husband, when we got married, said, "Take it all off. Take your makeup off." Wow. And that just broke my identity, because if he can love me, seeing the real me, my face and everything, he just shattered the self-hate I had for myself. Yeah. Wow. And then along with Jesus and just developing who I was and my uniqueness. And the first church allowed me to be me. Yeah. The Father's house definitely allows me to be me and all my foibles and idiosyncrasies and eccentricities. So I think just finding out who you are and really liking yourself is the identity that you guys have so exampled. That's from the School of Transformation. Yeah, that's amazing. So I do have a question though with this, because sometimes like within we get like what Kevin kind of touched on, but it gets a little bit confusing with the whole grace thing, because of course there's so much grace, there's endless grace, right? But that doesn't mean that gets a little bit confusing sometimes, where it's like, where it's easy to get into the mindset of like, it's okay if I mess up this time because the Lord will forgive me, which is, I was thinking about this the other day, and it's kind of like a relationship with anybody, like a best friend, a spouse, or whatever. Yes, they accept you for who you are, but if you just knew all these things they didn't like and then just did them, that wouldn't go so well. Yeah, just think about your husband. Think about your husband now. No. Knowing that he hates cheese and you would fix a cheese every night. Yeah, that would just be so unkind. Yeah, it would be unkind. Yeah. Very unkind. And that's like this same idea. So like, would you want to expand on that? Yes, I would love to. The message of Jesus, if there's two covenants, everybody knows the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, the New Testament. And oftentimes we mix the two. when it cleared up for me was when I just decided to read Jesus in context, line upon line, precept upon precept, the Gospels. And I read them without any preconceived notion of grace or working out your salvation. There's a mixture of working out your salvation with fear and trembling, and the grace covers, and he forgives your sins as far as east and west. There's a confusing message across Western society that it's you see when you say it's grace covers everything, it gives you license to sin, like you said. Right?
Yeah.
And it causes a lot of emotional damage because you think that's where he wants you. But then you read the words of Jesus out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And you go, wow, that's not what he said at all. And that's what in the school especially, I think you become less confused about the two messages.
Yeah.
Correct? Because it's like when you read Jesus in context, it just clears everything up.
Yeah.
And we had a moment about 12, 15 years ago where the Lord spoke to us and said we were confused. We always loved Jesus, but where the message was confusing.
Yeah.
And it's like either you're under grace, which is Jesus, or you're under the old covenant, which is works.
Right.
And legalism. But you read the words of Jesus and they really do convict you.
Yeah.
They don't condemn you, but they should cause you a moment's pause about your actions, your heart, and your behavior. Yeah. Did that answer that for you?
Yeah. No,
does that answer that?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, like the biggest thing isn't this. It's like it's the switch that Jesus is trying to do in me, where I'm not working because hopefully I'll be good enough someday.
Correct.
Right.
Because I won't be, because I'll continue to fall short. That's just. I live in a fallen world.
Yeah. But you don't excuse yourself.
Yeah, I'm not excusing myself.
Right.
Because he died for me with such love, my response to him is I'm actually called to and invited to work with and for Jesus.
That's right.
And that changes it because I get to work with the one who's perfecting me and who's redeeming me.
Yeah.
And that's a mind shift, isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a switch because I still catch myself falling into that all the time of here's my to-do list. I have to do this. I didn't do it. I'm not good enough. And then it's like, wait, Jesus is still here.
I love him.
Yeah. It's because I love him.
Because he first loved
I'm
us.
responding to him, you know?
Yeah.
It's really good.
So.
That's really good.
It really is a mind shift, and it really is a confusion, I think, of 2022 right now.
Yeah.
Is the messages are confusing.
Yes.
It's either your grace or your legalistic. When it's like I like to say it's kind of like holy freedom what we live.
Yeah.
It's holy. We recognize he's holy. And because he first loved us, we love. Freely was given, freely we give.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, Kevin, we've kind of gone over your whole story.
Yeah.
But is there anything else? Is there like any advice you'd have for our listeners if they're going through a similar mindset?
Yeah.
Come to the Father's house.
Yes, come to the School of Transformation. We have a new semester. Yeah, exactly. We have spring and fall semesters.
Yeah, that's perfect. Just through you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I mean, we have an incredible teaching on this, but I think there are two things that I would suggest mostly. Your personal pursuit of Jesus has to be on fire at all times. Like if the second I stop pursuing him and I just start trying to do it on my own, like, it was almost enough. Then I'm already in the cycle, right? Like I have to be going to him all the time, every day, learning to hear his voice. And the other thing that's been super helpful for me has been going to like specific leaders. Just go to find a spiritual father that has good fruit and say, who am I? And then they will tell you. And then you get to choose to believe them. I thought there was this magic wand and I was always looking for this magic wand and then eventually I'll be enough and I'll be good.
Wow.
But it's who am I? Okay, that's who you say I am. That's coincidentally also what Jesus says I am. And now I choose to believe it. Yeah. And then my actions and my feelings follow that choice, which I thought it was the other way around. I thought my feelings would lead me and then hooray, it's sunshine and lollipops, but it's not. Yeah. It's the gritty choice of I'm standing in this circle of people and I feel like I don't belong. Right. Well, too bad. I belong. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. And just it's that you have to fight it out in your brain, you know?
Yeah. Cool. That's amazing. So for all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in.
Absolutely.
This has been really, really insightful. Thank you, Kevin and Vicki. That's amazing. And I just want to encourage you guys that you get to make a choice, that Jesus loves you so much. He loves you so, so much. And you have the opportunity to make the little choices, the big choices, and to continue to pursue him because he's pursuing you and he wants you. So thank you for listening.
Have a great week.
Thank you so much for joining us at Refuse Ordinary. I hope that it was both challenging and inspiring in your walk with Jesus. If you have any questions at all, please comment below. We would love to hear from you. I have 3 different ways in which you can get involved at the School of Transformation. First, we have our flagship full-time in-person school right here in beautiful Oroville, California. Next, I have School of Transformation Light, which offers part-time modules, in-person and online on Sunday mornings. Last but not least, I have School of Transformation Light on the Move, which distills all the topics and teachings of the school into a video series, which means that you can watch it wherever you are. If you have any questions or would like more information on any of these options for school, please head to transformationschool.org.